In this video today, we're going to be talking about Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which just came out last year in 2019 and was directed by Céline Sciamma. We're Copy with Aliens at the Movies, a film education and film review channel. I'm Robert Bellissimo. I'm an actor and acting teacher.
I'm Steve Chambers. I'm an actor and writer.
And I'm Vanessa Buttino, and I'm a film lover and writer.
And if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking on the subscribe button, which you can find in the description box below.
So, A, Vanessa, why did you pick this movie? Then, B, what do you say this film's about?
Okay, so my answer to A would be I picked this film because the first time I saw it, immediately I knew that this was one of the most beautiful films I'd ever seen in my life. And by beautiful, I mean just the visuals were stunning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only other film that comes close to this film's beauty, to me, is Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, that is another astoundingly beautiful film. And these two together just, oh my God. So that was the first time I watched it. Then, to answer the second part of your question, I think, you know what? I don't even know. I think I know what Céline's message was and why she did this film and why she wrote it. But it seems like every time I watch it, there's a different message hidden. Like there's so many different layers in this film. Mm-hmm. So the way the viewer interprets it is totally up to them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Stephen, you can think one thing about this movie. Robert, you can think a totally different thing about this movie. And my thoughts about it will differ from each of yours.
What would you say is the essence of it? Like, what's the heart of the film?
I think what the director is trying to convey here is that desire is all about delay. And I did not pick up on that the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I just thought, okay, this is a love story, basic, right? The other times I watched it, it became so much more than that, in that it was almost a struggle to get to the love story in this movie, because the two main characters, Marianne and Heloise, they knew nothing about each other. In fact, Heloise didn't even know that Marianne was an artist. She thought she was just a companion that was there to keep her company. So it to me, it felt like there was a real struggle to get to the actual love story. And then when that happened, oh my God, it's just the story became something else entirely.
I agree with Vanessa. It's not just simply a love story. And the essence of it is really a love story, and how hard it is to be together at this time if you were gay.
Absolutely. I think the way it was filmed, the love story emerged so naturally. For me, it wasn't like, ooh, like, yeah, that had to happen. But the idea of self, okay? So you see yourself one way, right?
Right.
And that's one version of you. Another version of you is how others perceive you. You can't change that, but that exists. That's another version. A third version exists in how you might try to change, not on purpose, you might transform. Like, you know, when you're with a certain group of friends, you play this role. When you're with another group of friends, the dynamic changes and you're this way. So the idea of self is never constant. And to me, this was very much, Heloise has maybe not even, she had a version of herself in her mind, which had to do with the aristocracy and her station in life and all this. The way, is it Marianne? The painter.
The painter, yeah.
Sees her is obviously different. Hence, I think the first time Marianne shows the portrait to her, it's, oh, that's how you see me? That's not me.
Exactly.
But not to say that that's incorrect, because she didn't know who she was either yet. That's why we had to go through a few iterations of the painting. And so to me, it's really about identity.
Yeah.
To me, at the end, I really thought it was about how one defines oneself.
That's an excellent point. At the beginning, Heloise never smiled or laughed. But do you guys remember, Sophie, the maid?
Yeah.
I think she was so important to this film.
Yeah.
You kind of don't even realize the impact she had on this film until after you've seen it and you start thinking about it. So towards the beginning, after Heloise and Marianne had met for the first time, Marianne sits down with Sophie at dinner or something, and she was saying to Sophie, oh, you know what, she never laughs. And Sophie goes to her, like, just deadpan, well, have you made her laugh? Did you try to make her laugh? And it's like common sense. So I think that Sophie was it written in there to inject just some common sense to kickstart something,
That's a great point.
To kickstart a relationship. And even you see all three of the women bonding when Sophie had to go through the whole procedure to get rid of her pregnancy.
Right.
And that was like a truly bonding experience. And I think it just solidified that group of three and strengthened the relationship between Marianne and Eloise. And Sophie to me is so important in this film. And I don't think she gets enough credit. Yeah.
Sophie, who's a quote unquote sort of servant, is made, again, very naturally, the direction's incredible in this film, to be on par with them. She's an equal. Never once do I sit there going, why are they hanging out with the maid?
True.
But these characters are not, unlike the mother, super concerned with class and presentation. And again, it's so seamlessly done, just like the love story, that it didn't stand out in like look.
That's true, yeah.
Made. No, it's just, it is what it is. It wasn't until toward the end, I'm like, hey, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
They didn't judge her. They helped her. She was just as wise.
They bond so much. You see that scene outside where she's running back and forth as a way to miscarry.
Yeah.
And it's almost hard to watch at the same time, because then it's also speaking of like, oh my God, we already have these two women who can't be together because they're gay. And now we have this woman who can't do what she wants with her own body, and the running back and forth, and it's almost unbearable to watch how trapped they all are. But I think that's what ultimately bonds them.
An important aspect of this film for me were the colors that were chosen. So throughout most of the film, there weren't really many costume changes. So
that's true, yeah.
Marianne, the artist, she wore a lot of red, earthy tones. And then you have Heloise, who wore a lot of blue tones. And to me, that almost signified the meeting between sky and land, like the blue of the sky and the earthy tones of the land, and them coming together. And then what do you get when you water the earth? When you combine water and earth, you get the green of her dress, grass.
Right.
So that was something I immediately picked up on, was just the colors and the way that this film was presented. The cinematography is just freaking gorgeous. Like every single frame of this film could have been a painting in itself.
Yeah. It's so subtle in its building. Like, it's not like as soon as Marianne sees Heloise, like most films that have the music cued in and slow-mo, like, ooh, we're in love. And here you're actually, at one point I even doubted it. I thought, maybe there is not as much going on here as I thought, but it's so subtle. It's the subtlest looks. She's also looking at her a lot because she has to remember what she looks like in order to paint her. So that plays into it, and of course, Heloise is very depressed at this point and very repressed and scared, and has to marry this guy that she doesn't even know. Like, it's awful. So I thought that was, I really like the lack of music, and it's very quiet. It's a very eerie, and it gives it a real sadness, a real feeling of isolation and loneliness. Talk about just using the human face. Those close-ups and just
100%.
watching them communicate. That's the thing. I mean, we always think we need so much more, but if you have good actors
100%.
and a good story, just capture that. This is a lot of things that directors need to learn. And by the time they kiss, at one point they almost kiss, and then Marianne walks away, and then they do kiss. And in most films that would be clothes would be coming off, you'd see the full-on sex scene, And you know what I love what they did is that they both get scared and they
Yeah.
walk away at first. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Like I've never seen that. It's always like once it happens, boom, it happens. Right here, it's like it, and you know that for it's not even necessarily. Obviously, it plays into the fact that, oh my God, like this means I'm gay. I don't think Heloise was out. Marianne, I'm not sure. They don't really tell you what her history is in terms of relationships. But you know, I mean, if any of us think of our first kiss or our first time you have sex with someone, it is kind of scary, right? It is like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was brilliant. And then later when, you know, and then the next scene when they do kiss, it's handled very gently, very respectful.
I want to ask you guys a question now. Do you think
Sure.
that had a lot to do with the fact that a woman was directing this film? Like
I
you're
think
seeing,
so,
you're seeing
yeah.
it through a woman's gaze rather than a man's gaze. Do you think that had a lot to do with it?
I couldn't help but think about that in only the best way. And to parrot what Robert said, you know, when the kiss finally happens, I felt like, yeah, finally, not finally, but like no, but
you
as
could
though
feel the build.
I
You're
were
like,
one
you
of
could
them.
feel what they
Like,
wanted. Yeah.
yes, this is now. This should happen now, and it should happen exactly the way it did. But yes, and I thought, oh, it's so beautiful, and it's I would say it's erotic, just in a different, not in the fucking XXX way, but it was quite like, ooh,
Yeah.
that really gets you because it's so real, and for something to be real, it's to be felt. It doesn't need to be shown explicitly. But I did right then and there go, huh, if a guy directed this, would the guy director have gone, oh, this is
Oh,
the sex.
I think so. Yeah.
Like, do you know what I
think
mean?
so.
Like that traditional, here's the action scene, there's the chase scene, there's the sex scene. Okay, we got everything. We're going to get asses and seats. We got a hit. Whereas I thought this was more just like, even a guy might have done it that way if they thought they could. It's just, I think guys are rigid. I do this because we want nudity.
Right.
And this woman went, I don't even think it was, I'll not do that. It was just, I don't think it would have even occurred to her. It's just so
no. I think for a woman, that's completely natural to have done it that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I could be totally wrong, and this is just my opinion, but to me, women are a lot softer. They're a lot more tender in the way they view things. And I think that differs greatly from the way men perhaps see things or process things. But again, that's just my opinion.
You know, in this position where, you know, you have to call it quits and say goodbye and move on. It's unbearable. Like I almost had to like turn it off. Like it was killing me. Especially when they were in bed and saying, oh, we're going to regret this. And then I think Marianne says, no, we're going to remember it. And it's not a regret. It was very brief, you know, and I think that's the way it would have been. You know, the mother's there at the end too. Like, what are they, like, I think most films, the mother wouldn't have been in and they would have been crying and big goodbyes and very emotional. But it was so unbearable for them. It was so like, as soon as they hug, you see Marianne turns, you see she's breaking, and then they just cut away. You know, they cut right away because it's so. It was almost killing me.
I wanted to quickly just touch on performance. Everyone. So the mom is Valeria Golino, who, oh my God, she was in Rain Man.
Yes.
I was looking at her and I'm like, ow, and Big Top Pee-wee, and I knew, I knew her. But everyone, it's a very small cast. It's 4, really, right? Like
essentially, yeah. And then that one guy that takes her there in the boat and then brings her back.
And at the end.
Be that subtle. And not only that's also really, like, and you really believe that they're in love. But yeah, that's so hard to act, to be that small, but yet be conveying so much was, they're incredible, these two. I want to see more of their work.
Yeah. And actually, the woman who played Marianne, the artist, I was watching an interview with her yesterday, and she's so she had to learn how to paint for this film because she was on camera a lot painting. And she's actually left-handed.
Right,
but,
I read this.
Yeah, and so she had to learn how to paint, plus she had to learn how to do it right-handed. I mean, just the work that went into this film, and apparently it only took 38 days for production.
Yeah.
So it's a relatively short amount of time, and the pressure that these women must have been under to get it done. And even the painter that you see her hand actually.
That's her hand, right? Yeah.
It's not Marianne's hand.
No, it's the painter.
Yeah, it's an actual painter, and I believe her name is Hélène Delmer.
Yes,
and she apparently had to paint 16 hours every day just to get those two paintings done in time for the film. So I mean, just the work that went into this film is incredible.
Mental. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, really.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy you guys liked it.
Yeah, you picked the winner.
Well, I'm not surprised that Criterion has already put it out. Like, Criterion Collection.
And it's available on Crave Canada. That's where I saw it.
Okay, it's on Crave. And I know that the Criterion channel also has 2 other films directed by Céline Sciamma. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking on the subscribe logo at the top right there that you'll see floating above my head. Click on that. That will give you instant subscription. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.